Effectively, they appointed an older man, General Mohammad Naguib, as the man the public would see as their leader. Sadat remained in the background. Naguib, for all the ceremony, had no power. Nasser made all the decisions. Newsreels of the day were therefore slightly misleading.
From Cairo come these first authentic pictures of the bloodless coup by which the army took over control of Egypt. It was the end of the king's attempt to maintain power. Troops in the street were the first indication of the change to most people, until with the broadcasting station seized, it was announced that General Naguib, the commander-in-chief whom Farouk refused as war minister, had taken control, and the army were ordered to guard strategic points. The declared aim was to stop corruption. They struck at the top, and General Naguib shows the abdication papers signed by King Farouk in favor of his 7-month-old son. Meantime, from Alexandria, the royal yacht Marusa sails with the ex-king and the infant king for Capri. To the ordinary Egyptian, the change is welcome. What the change will mean to the rest of the world, we have yet to see.
The impression you had in Alexandria Harbor the night that the Marusa sailed King Farouk into exile?
Relax. Relax. Really.
Was the coup easier than you expected?
Very easy. Yes. Yes. Yes.
The new government, the Revolutionary Command Council, met legally for the first time.
And we were not prepared at all, either to form the government or to do whatever, anything at all. We were not prepared at all. Believe me, we were in a mess. What are we going to do? We are responsible now after the country, after Egypt.
By 1956, General Naguib had left government altogether. Nasser, now president, was to be Sadat's boss for the next 14 years. Egyptian nationalism did not wane under Nasser. If anything, it increased. Nasser appealed to the United States for arms and was turned down. He bought them from the Soviet bloc. Washington, in return, refused to provide the money it had promised for the badly needed Aswan High Dam. The Russians offered to pay. The Egyptians readily accepted. The American failure to provide the money led to the first serious Soviet penetration of Egypt. Sadat still blames the American Secretary of State John Foster Dulles.
We didn't like him here because he has never understood us. He has taken everything always black and white. Either you are with America or you are not with America, or you are an enemy of America. I don't like this attitude because there is a psychological element in the whole thing. We have our pride. We want to be friends with America, but we have our pride and we don't want to be a puppet government, or we don't want to receive orders from Mr. Dulles. But we can be friends. He didn't understand this.
Sadat stepped into the shadows for the years of the Nasser regime. He did not really re-emerge until one night in December of 1969. Nasser, concerned about his own death and the perpetuation of his policies, named Anwar Sadat his vice president.
And he said, well, if I happen to die, I want you to continue, and I don't want anyone to humiliate this country again.
Did you take that as a pretty clear indication that he wanted you to be the next president?
Quite right. He never said this before.
Sadat, Action Biography, will continue after this message.
Don't just sit there. Do something. Like listen. Listen to the debate on how to bring better health care to everyone. Aetna Life and Casualty is listening. After all, we insure 1 out of 7 American workers. Like look and see how no-fault auto insurance can affect you. Aetna is awake to it. After all, we're the 4th largest in car insurance. And speak up. Give Congress your opinion about both national health care and no-fault. After all, these issues affect your life, your well-being, your pocketbook. Aetna is involved in them because we believe our ideas and yours will help find what's best for everybody. If you'd like to know more, we can help. For information on national health care and no-fault auto insurance, Write to Issues, Aetna Life and Casualty, Hartford, Connecticut. Do something. Join the action. You get action with Aetna.
If Anwar Sadat is a nationalist, he's also a peasant. He springs from the centuries-old underprivilege to overpopulate the Nile River Delta. Anwar Sadat's nationalism is rooted in the Egyptian peasantry. Even the poorest is attached to his nation's history. It is striking to realize that while part of Egypt is modern, much of it is the same as it was centuries ago. Transportation, tools, lifestyle. When Anwar Sadat was born on Christmas Day in 1918, his village of Mit al-Kum looked almost exactly as it does today. His father's job as a clerk had taken him to the Sudan, and Sadat lived with his grandmother. They were poor in a nation where even the richest Egyptian was one class below the resident foreigner. Sadat was one of 12 children. For several thousand years, his family and fellow villagers had been unable to escape the oppressive poverty. Sadat had never lived outside his village until the day his father was transferred to Cairo. He soon discovered that life in the city was different.
Believe me, it was very miserable for me when I left the village and came to town. I started to learn what's really the meaning to be poor. I started to know what is the meaning of class. I was very miserable, believe me.
Sadat has never overcome his distaste for the city and the restraining walls it imposes. There is not enough room in the garden of his Cairo home. Whenever he can, he retreats to a variety of country residences. Time is his enemy, and a day off with his wife and 2 of the 4 children is rare. He is not a very active man, but here on the edge of the Mediterranean, he and his wife, Jihan, take long walks. She is his second wife. He divorced his first in the late 1940s and met Jihan, who is half English, a short while later. What did she say when you first asked her if she would marry you?
Well, she agreed at once. She agreed, in spite of the fact that there is a difference in age between us.
You were just irresistible.
I was admiring him so much because he was very faithful to his country, his loyalty to his country.
The Sadats have 4 children, 2 married, 2 others, Nana and Gamal, still living at home. There is little time for the children, and they often resent it.
I want him to work with me, solve my problems, you know. I like to sit with him, you know. I don't sit with him too much because of his work. And I miss him.
At home, Mrs. Sadat is the disciplinarian and usually takes the lead in family matters. Jihan Sadat is a leading Egyptian figure. She understands the real depths of the country's social problems.
She worries always, but she is very kind-hearted, and she is a real help.
No matter where a Muslim is, he has obligations. Whether in a mosque or in his living room, Sadat prays 5 times a day. Sadat's faith and obvious devotion to Islam has enhanced his image as a leader with other Arabs. During our visit, an afternoon in the country included a visit to his beach house. The president does not move even here without a strong detachment of bodyguards. Again, the president did little. He shuddered a little when his children raced by in their latest acquisition. He prefers to just sit and read. But sometimes his wife talks him into backgammon. She was winning, and he was pleasantly relieved when the Minister of Defense and his wife came by for a visit. Sadat does not have time for many close friends. He and Ahmed Ismail have been friends since they were young officers and joined the revolution. Revolution came naturally to Sadat, but he was not in government when the officers solidified their power.
I don't like the administration. I don't like it. It is something in my blood. I used to say to Nasser, I can help you, but I don't want to be a minister or something like that. I can help you from my stand in anywhere.
Because Sadat was not publicly apparent as part of Nasser's inner circle, most people judged him to be of little influence. Nasser's presidency, however, was marked by constant power struggles. The villager knew how to survive. Sadat returned to his old job as a journalist. He wrote a book on the revolution. We know now that he never lost contact with Nasser.
The others, when they disagree with him, they declare it and they make a show of it. But I disagreed with him, but we used to discuss this either at his home or at my home, and we used to have very hot discussions.
Nasser electrified and sometimes frightened the world. Sadat's style is different and many believe more effective.
President Nasser was, of course, in many ways the movie star of the Arab world, and his image still dominates a great deal of thought about the proper way of moving toward the future. President Sadat is a quieter man. He's more of a father figure. He's more of the ideal Egyptian villager.
Sadat served Nasser faithfully, often as a spokesman in foreign capitals.
I remember once when he was on his way to America, and people were worrying if he was going to make boo-boos all over the place. And an American friend of Nasser's said, well, I don't think Anwar Sadat is smart enough to make any serious mistakes. He's bound to just go over there and be a genial boob everywhere. Nasser turned to this American and said contemptuously, have you ever heard of Goha? Now, do you know who Goha is? Goha is the man in a sort of an Aesop's fable character in Arabic literature who acts like he's a fool or buffoon, and really, while he's making you think he's a buffoon, he's removed your gold teeth from you without you realizing it. That's what Nasser meant.
For all his travels and apparent worldliness today, it is his village which draws him back. It is only here where Sadat sheds his tailored suits and French ties for his native Galabeya. He lives in the village's only large house. Even as president, he has done little to change the other side of the street. It is much today as it has always been. This is no longer the place where Sadat can walk unnoticed, but at least this is family, and the press of the crowd bothers him less. Here, he is not so much president of Egypt as he is village elder, the boy who made good. Here, Sadat hears blunt complaints about village problems and well-intended admonitions about his health. He relishes the role of patriarch, here and for Egypt as a whole. The villagers and he communicate easily.
Sadat's an Alabama politician. If you want to understand Sadat, understand John Sparkman from Alabama, a man who is highly educated, highly intelligent, but who knows how to say ain't, so that just a faint trace of quotes around it, so that if he's talking to someone who says ain't, they won't notice the quote, but someone who knows better, they will notice the quote. I'd say Anwar Sadat's that kind of a man. He aspires to be pretty much what he is.
It would be an insult for Sadat to visit the village without seeing an even older man, the teacher who taught him religion as a youth. Sadat says he will retire here in 1976, but not many people believe him. Politics is in his blood. Those who oppose him believe he will not easily relinquish power. Those who support him say he couldn't walk away from the problems of Egypt. Whatever the case, Sadat is convincing about the burdens of the presidency.
I have lost everything. I have lost my freedom. I have lost my life as